There's layers here that make it fascinating because you're not just thinking about one thing.
Welcome to Proofread, a podcast to help you read more of what you love and less of what you don't.
Okay, hello, folks, and welcome to Proofread. My name's Kacy. I'm here with my friend, Tyler. Hi,
I'm Tyler. Hi, Kacy.
How you doing? You ready to talk about a book?
I can't wait.
Okay, today we are talking about The Fox Wife by Yangsze Choo. Okay, this is from 2024. And we came to this book, actually, one of your colleagues recommended that we read this book.
Yeah, that's right.
And so I love getting book recommendations. When someone gives me a thoughtful book recommendation and I like the book, it makes me fall in love with that person because I think they know me so well, and I'm kind of picky about the books that I like.
Yeah, and this is kind of like one of the goals of the Proofread here is like, I've heard about this book. Should I read it? And this is a perfect one where someone was like reading this book and they're like, I think this book is great. You should tell people to read this book. And we're like, we'll be the judge of that.
We'll be the judge of that.
We'll be the judge of that.
We're the professionals here, please. So this is a book. Now, I was struggling to think about how to describe it. Is it magical realism? Is it historical fantasy?
Yes,
is
I
it
wanted to say the
simply
same thing.
Chinese folklore? So it's like the 1900s.
It's like turn of the century, 20th century.
It's like
1900.
Yeah. She's from Malaysia.
Yep.
She's of Chinese descent. So it's about the fall of the Qing dynasty. That's like happening in the background. You don't really have to know a lot about that. Like it's not historical fiction. No. I found like a little bit interesting that it is placed in a historical, real point in time.
Yeah.
But it's a world where foxes can transform into people.
Yeah, so fox is like a mythical creature that is a fox but then can transform into a person and are kind of mischievous.
They're kind of mischievous.
They live a long time.
They live for a really long time. They can talk people into doing things. They're often very good looking and people kind of fall under their spell, which is super fun, but it's just a little bit of that. And so a lot of that. I mean, the main character is one of those. She is a fox, the fox wife. And so she's a human and it's talking about her life. She has this kind of revenge mission because someone killed her fox cub. And so she's really upset about that and wants to get revenge. And then there's also, this is all tied up with like a murder mystery. It's a detective novel because the other narrator is a guy. He has this uncanny ability to always know when people are telling a lie. And so that's another kind of little bit mystical thing.
Yeah, and you have the alternating chapters. So you go from tracking the detective kind of, he's investigating something and trying to find to it. And then you have the fox wife on her process.
And they
intersect at different moments. And they're building. The novel builds like that.
So he's a private investigator type person. And so it's this story that talks a little, you hear a little bit of flashbacks about these like history and their family. And then there's the murder story. Well, let's say reader skip first.
Yeah.
And then I'll say what it is.
Okay.
Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Read.
Okay. Why read this?
This is what novels should be.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. I love this book. I love this book.
It is so fun. Like, it is sad, it is heart-wrenching, but it is also like so interesting.
It's so interesting. And it isn't like, I wouldn't call it a comedy, but it's funny and clever. Like one thing that she says is one of the first rules about foxes is you don't talk about foxes. It's just like a Fight Club reference. And it's the most unlikely of places. And it's clever like that.
If we just think as like plot setup, like what you just described with on the level of plot where you've got the two things going at once, but they're not jumping back and forth like two different perspectives. It's almost like you have the main story and then you're trying to figure out where to place the investigation. And you're like, is this years in the future? Is this in the past? And then you start to realize like, the investigation is slowly catching up with the main narrative.
Exactly.
And that tension building is really, really exciting. And then there's other kind of crossover characters from each of the perspectives. So it's basically like you have one story happening and then someone in the past piecing those stories together. Not like super far past, but like maybe a month behind, piecing those stories together. And then eventually the stories connect. And I don't know why I was just delighted and rooting for the investigator to kind of like
too. Bao. His name is Bao.
Oh, and then he like discovers something, but he doesn't know who it is. And you're thinking, I think I know what that is.
Yeah, because you know a little bit of like how foxes can jump over walls and things like that and transform into people. And he's like coming along and, Sherlock Holmes, like trying to figure this stuff out, a little bit, but it's not predictable. There's some surprising things that happen, and it isn't solved by these like weird magic stuff.
No.
That just enhances it. It's very palatable. That's not a genre that I always love or seek out, or fantasy and things like that, but there's just enough about it being foxes and that this guy can tell when people are lying that I found it intriguing and just gave it some interesting places to go.
It's certainly not a fantasy,
no,
right?
not at all.
But there are fantastic elements to
Yes,
it.
that's very, very well said.
Yeah, and just on that level of, like in this normal realistic world, there just happens to be these mythical foxes that are there. But then they blend in and it's really subtle. And of course, there's half people that don't believe in foxes and then half of them that are like devotees and really want to meet them. And so it's kind of like, oh, there's just these foxes that live among us. And then you get to meet the fox as she's navigating this in-between worlds. But the thing for me is like that story's exciting. The momentum of the story is just fantastic.
There's a weightiness to it.
Yeah.
Like, for example, and there's relationships that I think are quite interesting.
Yes.
People who reconnect after a long period of time. And this isn't political or anything like that, but there are some interesting.
I mean, maybe if you got really invested in early 20th century
Qing
Chinese
dynasty,
politics. Yeah.
There's just like a few references to that make it kind of cool.
Yes, I agree.
It's interesting
and
enough.
I'm also not a student of that era
No, me neither.
or place in the world, so I'm just like, oh, cool. Like I feel like I'm getting a little
getting a little bit
glimpse.
about it.
Yeah.
And then also this stuff about Chinese history,
Yes,
which of
that's
course
what
you
I
don't
mean,
have
exactly.
to be like to find out the story of a grandma or a great grandma and like that they had their feet bound.
Yeah, that's a
and
big
then
part.
to talk about like the difference between that great grandma and then the first one to not have bound feet, or like this fox wife, the main character, she has really big feet.
Yeah.
And that's almost
Everyone
like,
seems to notice that.
that's like it's kind of meaningful that she's like not from that heritage of having bound feet. She's like a little bit more. She's like more of a modern woman. They all notice that. And then you think, oh, that's because, I remember they used to do that. And then the other thing that is just a horrifying part of these people's family history, as some of the clues like come out through family history and these past relationships, is about like having the Chinese babies when they were girls, they didn't survive.
Yeah.
And how that they talk about that and how that's part of this history. It's not about that, but that is part of it.
That's just the world.
That's just the world
story
that
is
it was
swimming in. Yeah.
And like then how that makes different kind of emphasis on the sons, and then when someone gets pregnant and like worrying, like it's very very interesting.
It was interesting the different anxieties that they tap into that are not familiar to me, right? Like
yes,
but around like childbirth, child rearing, safety, education, all of this stuff. It was kind of a cool insight into all of that while you're chasing this revenge story.
Yeah, because there's all this stuff going on. So you don't get bored.
No.
Because it's this revenge story, it's this murder, and then it's just enough of the history and stuff to like, make it interesting. It's just very layered, and that there's a weight to it.
It's a great word for it. There's layers here that make it fascinating because you're not just thinking about one thing.
Yeah.
And maybe this
you don't get bored, for sure.
And we've kind of talked about other books where it's just like kind of one-dimensional, right? We did like a rom-com on here. It's just one-dimensional, not a lot other going on than this two people talking back and forth relationship.
Yeah.
This is a multifaceted.
It has so much more to it
There's
than
so
that.
much depth to it, and there's a lot to kind of keep you interested and bring you into the world.
The main character, I think, is really relatable because she this says more about me, but like she's like she's so full of hate. She has this grief. It's been, I think, 2 years.
She's been chasing
and she's been chasing, and she kind of knows that that's not necessarily going to make her happy, but she just wants to do it. So this stuff about grief and motherhood, and then there's these mothers who lost babies, and there's also stuff about class.
Yeah.
They give out medicine.
Yeah, they run like a medicine shop.
They're running a medicine shop, and
Yeah.
how this lady that started as like a lower person in society has like worked to be this expert in that. And it's just kind of all these commentary about history and family. That's just like super interesting and incredibly relatable, even though I don't know very much about this place of the world. So, and another thing that I like about it is that there's this, I don't know if it's Buddhist, or it's like a spiritual practice about the 1,000-year journey.
Yeah.
Even though like these people, they kill they kill other people and they do all these things, but they live for a really long time. And the idea is that they become better people.
Well,
over
they kind of
this
commit to this, right? This is where one of the characters doesn't commit to it, and then a couple of them are like, we're going to commit to actually using our time to progress towards enlightenment.
And so you just think you're also like, oh, they have all this time, and that is what they've decided that they care about. You know, not just like doing mischief and getting things that they want. And so I thought that's a really interesting way to look at morality, even in this, it's a fantastical world. But I thought that was so fascinating. Like, what if you did have 1,000 years? That's a pretty long time. You could work on stuff for a really long time. But also, if you could trick people, would you ever commit to that? So it's so relatable, even in these things that like haven't happened to me.
Well, now some of the joy, like you're saying, is the way that some of these foxes choose to use their time.
Exactly, yeah.
Right? Because some of them could not live among the humans. Like they don't need to. They can actually live in the wild.
Yeah.
And then some of them choose to, and then they get into all sorts of scrapes. And then there's like this lovely refrain where she keeps kind of going like, we foxes have learned this. You know, like we foxes have learned not to talk about foxes, or we foxes have learned to like only exert our influence too strong, or the pushback when it runs out is more severe. I don't know. Like you get a little different perspective than you might in other ways, right? It's just think about, okay, there's these characters living for 1,000 years or for hundreds of years at least, and what are the decisions they make, and how, and then they kind of report to how some of them come to an untimely end because they're actually pretty fragile.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's not like they're immortal. Like they can totally die.
They don't have super strength or anything like that.
They can totally die. They just
can die.
They can.
Yeah.
I was asking myself moral questions while reading
I was
this
too.
book.
That is what surprised me. Is I was like, finally, I was like, okay, this is a detective story. Great, they're going to solve a murder. And then I was like,
give me a murder to solve.
I love it. If this would only be set in Shetland, that would be even better. But it is hopeful, and it is fun.
Yeah.
Because the person talking is clever.
Yeah.
And interesting.
And she's got a plan, and you're trying to follow her with it. But there's also like this overarching theme of like reconciliation in the.
I loved that about
there's
it.
There's just this theme of reconciliation in the face of like terrible, terrible tragedy.
Horrible grief. And it reminded me of Hamnet, which we've read.
Yeah.
Which I know is a great book and beautifully written, but you might remember that when we read it, I was so sad. It was so sad for me that it was hard for me to just really be excited about it. And this deals with a similar theme. You know, it's the loss of a child. And for some reason, it just didn't bum me out so much. Maybe just my mood or whatever. But I loved all the context of it, and I loved it's a spoiler, but I love the relationships that are in this.
Yes.
And I want to say, like, we just read the rom-com, where it's like, talk about romantic. What's more romantic than committing to a 1,000-year journey with someone who you've been through all of this hard stuff with, and to try to become better people and to promise not to kill anyone else, even though you could.
And then the
that is romantic.
The lesson too of like coming to oneself. Like I always love that. Like, oh, I came to myself, and that's usually used as this realization of like, I suddenly had a greater awareness, a heightened awareness or understanding of something. And I think that is here. And they come to themselves, and then they come back to each other. There's this disruption in a relationship, a very serious, significant disruption. And then there's this like return because of this devotion. I thought on that level it's also just like lovely. Like I loved reading it.
It's very beautifully. It's not heavy. It's.
And this is why when you get like a real read endorsement from me, this is like I finished it and said other people should read this book.
Right. I think I would read it again.
Yeah.
I might read it again.
Kacy, would you say content-wise for this book, what are you thinking?
I think it's a pretty clean read, but there are some, serious sad things, like people get killed. And they do talk a little bit about prostitution at the beginning.
Well, and kind of throughout, because it's constantly they're looking for some characters.
It's a theme.
And these young
trafficking,
women,
people who are trafficked. And so
it's not done like explicitly, but it's like the culture that this is describing is that there's a lot of women who leave rural areas and end up
in that.
In like this.
Yeah. I was a little worried about it when I started reading. I was like, oh, what's this going to be?
So was I.
So I was like, oh,
but
no.
then it doesn't.
But it doesn't.
Yeah.
And then, it's kind
of like the reality is like, oh yeah, this is a woman that was at one of these houses houses, and now she's gone missing, and now we have to find this. And you kind of have to understand.
You kind of have to know just because of the power dynamics and things like that.
Yeah.
So I was nervous when I started reading it, but like it isn't graphic about that kind of stuff.
No, and there's certainly not like swear words.
No, it doesn't swear.
Nothing like that.
And even the people who die, like it's not super graphic. So I don't think like a middle grade would
certainly
like
not.
it.
No.
But there's no major
I
content
think,
warnings here. Okay, what shelf would you put it on?
I think that this shelf is on a yes, you'll like this book shelf.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, like this is it's on there, and I'm like, people are like, oh, should I read this? Oh, that shelf, that's one you'll like.
Mm-hmm. I put this on the shelf thought-provoking.
Yeah, great shelf.
Because it is thought-provoking. And it's fun. The things it makes you think about are meaningful.
Yeah, on the book, there's like a blurb and it says like enchanting. And I thought, like, yeah.
It is enchanting.
It's an enchanting book. You kind of lose yourself into this world for a little, go on this journey with this woman, and she's going to find there's going to be funny adventures, and you learn a lot about kind of this world she lives in. And then you also kind of grow along with her.
Yeah.
Seems real. Cheesy maybe for me to say it like that, but I think that's actually
It's true. I feel the same way. And it isn't cheesy.
No, the book itself is not. I don't think so at all.
And we've read some cheesy things.
We've read a cheese book or two. Certainly.
Okay, well, Yangsze Choo.
You've been proofread. I also don't know what I've read that's like this.
What is it like? Is it like Lady Hawk plus Sherlock Holmes? Like I was trying to think of something catchy to say, but there's nothing like it.
Proofread is a production of BYU Radio and is produced by Jeff Simpson with help from Erica Price, Becca Hurley, and Lisa Valentine Clark. Find us on YouTube at Proofread Podcast for video clips and more. And please follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Thanks for spending your time with us today, and happy reading.